Alright, Metal Gear Solid 2 time, and a lot of people have asked me where they can find the original 2 Metal Gear games. It's actually on the HD one that came out for Xbox 360, PS3, PS Vita. You can find both the original Kojima Metal Gear games on there, so yeah, knock yourself out, have fun. Now, let's review Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. How do I even start this? This game is a mixed bag if ever there was one. Metal Gear Solid 2 starts out a couple years after the Shadow Moses incident from Metal Gear Solid 1, and I'm gonna recap a little bit and give some Metal Gear Solid 1 spoilers, so if you don't want these spoilers, I guess you can't really watch this. But it's just Metal Gear Solid 1 spoilers. Alright, Metal Gear Solid 1, we learned that Liquid Snake looks just like Solid Snake because Liquid and Solid Snake are both genetically identical. They're both the genetic sons of Big Boss. It's a pretty important plot point in the entire Metal Gear Solid series. And at the end of Metal Gear Solid 1, Revolver Ocelot gets away with everything. And he's talking on the phone with someone and he's like,
"Yes, my cover's intact. No one knows who I really am."
And you're like, "Who are you, Revolver Ocelot? I'm more intrigued than ever." Then you find out there was actually a third son of Big Boss, Solidus, who's actually the president. Yeah, president of the United States and the whole Shadow Moses incident. Alright, now we're all caught up. Enter Metal Gear Solid 2. Now, it's been a couple years since Revolver Ocelot got away with all of Metal Gear Rex's dummy warhead data. That information and shit got out there, and now every company, military, country, .com has a Metal Gear that they're working on. Yes, Google has a Metal Gear. How do I know? Because they have cars that drive themselves. Yeah, they have Metal Gear. And now the Marine Corps has made a Metal Gear to fight Metal Gears. This is Metal Gear Ray, an anti-Metal Gear Metal Gear. So it's being transported on this oil tanker. Solid Snake jumps on the oil tanker. You're like, yeah, Solid Snake's back. And all the promos were like, oh yeah, Solid Snake's back. Go on the tanker, stop the new Metal Gear. And it was all awesome, but in the back of your mind, you're like, how can they make an entire Metal Gear Solid game just on one oil tanker? You should have listened to yourself. The Solid Snake segment in that oil tanker, that's pretty much the beginning of the game. And then the shit hits the fan, the tanker sinks, it's a big deal, it's a big old oil mess because Hideo Kojima can read the future apparently. Then enter the biggest bait and switch in video game history. 2 years after that incident, you now play as a character named Raiden. And you're like, who is this guy? This is gonna be for a few minutes, right? I'm gonna play as him for a little bit and then go back to Snake. Nope, you play as Raiden for the entire game. You play as Raiden on this thing called Big Shell. It was a big cleanup facility that was put where the oil tanker sank, you know, it's kind of an environmental thing. And now a terrorist organization called the Sons of Liberty have taken it over, led by Solidus Snake. Now you get to finally see this third son guy. Now playing as a new character that's not Solid Snake wouldn't be so bad if they just promoted it like that. They didn't let you know that there were bigger things going on. They didn't let you know that you were going to play as a different character. So naturally, people were pissed. They were like, I played through Metal Gear Solid 5,000 times. Now you're telling me I have to be this other guy who's not half as cool as Snake? Now, even though you play as Raiden for the entire game, you do meet a guy that looks suspiciously like Solid Snake. Lieutenant Junior Grade Iroquois Pliskin. Yeah, he's totally Snake. I do like the fact that Snake is part of your support team, but you missed the guy, man. You're like, you're seeing him right in front of you, and you're seeing someone that you should be playing as. That's how you feel. You don't care about the fact that he's grown a mullet since the last time you saw him. You want to be him. Granted, Raiden has a pretty cool story tied in with him, but it takes the entire game and then the next 2 Metal Gear Solids to really reflect back and go, yeah, Raiden's all right. As for the gameplay aspect of this gameplay was insane. It really stepped it up in every way possible. Again, you can aim at certain limbs on guys' bodies. You can shoot them in the arm, shoot them in the foot. You can hold them up, you know, it'd be like, freeze. And then you can shake them down for rations. If they don't give you rations, shoot them in the foot. They'll probably give you more. I did that a lot. I was holding dudes up for hours, shooting them in the hand. I guess that's like the digital equivalent of picking wings off of flies. And I'm sure it's not normal for, you know, but I did it and I had fun. Again, just like Metal Gear Solid 1, these elements are commonplace now, but back then it was like, alright, it's like Hideo Kojima was like, alright, we're making a new Metal Gear Solid game. We're gonna create it in a way that every other game developer has to look back and be like, we gotta be at least as good as that if we want to be relevant anymore. It's like when you're shooting wine bottles off the wine rack, it's not that you can shoot the bottles, but specifically where you aim on that bottle determines how it breaks. That shit was out of control in 2001. However, in my opinion, this is the toughest of the Metal Gear Solid games, because it was like they were like, all right, yeah, we have aiming mode. So you're getting an advantage, so we have to make it harder. Which means if you get seen and it goes into red alert mode, again, you die. I do like the fact that, you know, in Metal Gear Solid 1, someone sees you, it's like, bland, red mode, you turn around, 5,000 guys are just wasting you with AK-47. But in this game, if someone sees you, he has to call for help before he gets backup. So you can blast him in the head, shoot out his radio, choke him out, snap his neck, do whatever. As long as you can kill him before he gets the word out, help's not gonna come. I like that element a lot. That was really cool. Doesn't change the fact that if he does get the word out, you're dead. In all of the Metal Gear Solid games ever made, I died the most in Metal Gear Solid 2. Whether it be from falling off of a ledge to a stupid little camera that's floating in the air that sees me, that calls in the cavalry, to moments where it has that type of Mega Man trial and error thing going on. You know, you're like, oh, there's a window there. Shit, I got seen. Now I'm dead. All right, let's duck under the window and go by it. All right, sneaking under the window while I'm crouching. Oh, the floor just gave out under me. Oh, it just dropped me into the water. Now I'm dead. You're really gonna throw those curveballs at me and make me die? You don't know the floor is gonna give out on you. It was bullshit. However, if we're gonna talk about the villain in this game, Solidus. All right, Solidus is actually quite badass. I'm not sure I'm buying the fact that the dude was president of the United States, and when people see him, they're like, who are you? That'd be like George W. Bush coming up and being like, you know, I'm Solidus. Solidus Snake. I'll give you a snake bite. You don't want that shit? And I'll be like, who are you? But Solidus is quite cool, and you see in the game, you're like, all right, you're another son of Big Boss, but you're clearly older than Solid Snake and Liquid Snake were, so what's the deal? And in the later games, they explain, and I'll explain it right now, is that Solidus Snake was actually the only son of Big Boss who was an exact duplicate. He was a clone of Big Boss. That's why he looks just like Big Boss. You don't really know where Revolver Ocelot's coming from. You're like, I already know you've been playing both sides before. What side are you playing for now? Again, I like characters like that. One of the things you see him do on the tanker is he just wastes one of his allies. You're like, talk to me, Goose. No, don't talk to me. I like not knowing that shit. However, your feeling about Metal Gear Solid 2 goes from, all right, I'm playing as Raiden, and then the plot just gets strange. Even on the tanker, Ocelot's like,
I'm taking it back for the Patriots.
this dude's like, the la-la-loo-la-lo. You're like, who are the, and what are the... What? I guess I can say in Metal Gear Solid 2, everything was just more extreme, from gameplay to dialogue to plot to weirdness. Like, you know, in Metal Gear Solid 1, Ocelot got his arm sliced off. Now he has a new arm. The new arm is from Liquid Snake's body. So whenever Solid Snake is near him, Liquid Snake's soul possesses Ocelot's body and he becomes Liquid Snake. Now again, with that supernatural element that's always really been in Metal Gear Solid to an extent, God willing, I ever meet a real psychic in my life. Maybe he can make himself float. Maybe I have to switch my controller port. I don't know. I've never met one. But I have known people who have had transplants, and those people do not get possessed by the souls of people whose body parts they now have. That's just how I see it, really. Now, they will explain this element in the games to come, but for right now, as you're playing 2, you're like, that's strange. Now, the weird character in Metal Gear Solid 2 that just had me scratching my head was Vamp. He's more or less a vampire. Yeah, a vampire has been thrown into the Metal Gear Solid mix. I found that so strange. I can take a floating psychic in the last game, apparently, but Vamp was just so out of left field. I was like, explain please. And they don't explain him whatsoever. Now, like Ocelot's arm and the whole possession thing, they're going to explain Vamp in a later Metal Gear Solid game, but for right now, they're just like, oh yeah, here's a vampire in the mix, deal with that weirdness. That made me think that Metal Gear Solid 2 was on such a strange plane from 1 that 1 seems so normal in comparison. Then you play Metal Gear Solid 3 and the bosses in there are so strange that you realize that the weird thing isn't the fact that they have a vampire in Metal Gear Solid 2. The weird thing is actually that the bosses in Metal Gear Solid 1 are more normal than they should be. Before you know that though, just throwing a vampire into the military game is just it's a really strange thing. I would say that's the thing that weighs Metal Gear Solid 2 down. It introduces so much weirdness into the series, but doesn't explain it yet. It's a bit culture shockish for you. Nothing more perplexing than the end of the game, my friends. You're playing the game, you're going along, and then in the course of about an hour's worth of gameplay, give or take, you get this bomb dropped on your lap. That's not one bomb, it's just layers upon layers upon layers of just continual revelation. Things go from weird to strange to strange. You leave the game pretty much going, what the fuck? Metal Gear Solid 1 did a good job at establishing the world that would be the Metal Gear Solid series, but it also existed as an isolated game that you can play through and be like, oh yeah, that's the plot of my one game. Metal Gear Solid 2 really exists as the introduction to the world that would become bigger. It exists to establish what the big picture is, what the problem is, and what you're fighting for in Metal Gear Solid 4. Now, as a person who's played through the Metal Gear Solid series, I look back on Metal Gear Solid 2, I reflect, and I'm like, okay, I get it. When the Metal Gear Solid saga is done, Metal Gear Solid 2 makes perfect sense. You look back on it and you go, yo, yeah, it's a completely relevant chapter and it is absolutely necessary. However, when you leave the game playing it in 2001 for the first time, you're like, that was not Metal Gear Solid 1. And I do have to give Hideo Kojima credit, you know? He was like, all right, in order for this thing to be a big picture, at this point in time, you need to play as a different character than Solid Snake. That takes balls to have your fans feel like you just bait and switch them, and then have this game leave the fans with so many questions that aren't really going to be answered for about 7 years. The themes that the end of the game touches on, when it just stacks you with information overload in the course of about 30 minutes, are really cool themes. It has to do with censorship, control of information, control of human beings, corruption. It's really cool. It's like Hideo Kojima saw how the technological era was making us, and he came up with a story that would be a really cool story as to what the end game might be for this. And I like it now in 2012, being a guy who played through the Metal Gear Solid saga in 2008. However, when the newest chapter of Metal Gear Solid is Metal Gear Solid 2 and you play through it for the first time in 2001, you don't really see it that way. You just leave going, what are the Patriots? What are the Lolly-Lule-Lo? Because also one of the major things is when you're playing Metal Gear Solid 2 for the first time, you're like, oh, Solidus, he's a bad guy. But if you play the game kind of seen from the point of view of, although he's extreme, he might not be wrong, the game gets a little more interesting and makes a lot more sense. I can guarantee you there are people out there who played through Metal Gear Solid 2 and they're like, I'm done with Metal Gear Solid. It's just too weird now. I would say pick up the series, play 3 and 4, go back and play 2. It will make sense. And it actually will be really cool. One of the cool things to happen in Metal Gear Solid 2 was Harry Gregson Williams did the score. He would then end up doing all the music to the Metal Gear Solid games after that. But him doing the Metal Gear Solid music with that Metal Gear Solid theme, it's awesome. That's all I can say is him being added to the Metal Gear Solid mix just made it complete. Metal Gear Solid 2 does have, as insignificant as this is going to sound, it has one of my favorite moments. And that's the scene where Snake and Otacon do this secret bro handshake, and then they give 5, and then they pull each other in and give each other a bro hug. That was when I was like, holy shit, Hal Emmerich, Otacon, is actually a friend of Solid Snake. Snake always kind of struck me as this guy who's like, I don't have the luxury of friends kind of guys, you know? He's the soldier, he's here to do what's necessary. But at that moment, I was like, he has a friend, and his name is Hal Emmerich, aka Otacon. I love that scene. It's just so humanizing for Snake. So Metal Gear Solid 2 stepped up the gameplay, stepped up the graphics, was technologically advanced to no end. For its time anyway. Looks great in HD. If you want to pick up the HD collection, you're like, oh yeah, it is like, it's 60 frames a second. It's in HD. It looks really good. However, is riddled with really frustrating moments when you get seen when that thing goes to red alert. You're like, all right, I'm done. I'm dead. I could try to hide in a locker, but how many times have you had the guy be like, I'm gonna open this locker, someone might be in it. The ending was really confusing and kind of bizarre. However, after completing the saga, you look back on it, you're like, okay, yeah, it was all completely relevant and it all makes sense. So Metal Gear Solid 2, what did you think of it? I'm really curious, because everyone I met when they first played it hated it. So have you played it recently? Have you beaten the saga? Did you go back and play it? I wanna know what you think, so comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you wanna see more, click right here to see more.